Hello, and welcome to the GX3 Media Podcast. Again, after 5 years of being away, I think we're trying this thing again. I've wanted to try it for years, and I've talked about it. Trust me, there have been a number of people that have listened to me lament not having a podcast, not continuing after my month and a half, 2 months maybe of content that I created back during COVID, during our stay-at-home COVID time. That was all the way back in 2020. It's really hard to remember, I get that. Anyways, for the past week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I've made it a point to try to figure out how to make this work. Not just make it work, but actually pull the trigger, upgrade equipment, go all in, maybe consider some video. And anyways, tonight, whatever, again, we're in our dead week. We don't have high school football until next Monday. We don't have other sports for maybe another week or so after that. We're in between some seasons. There's some Legion baseball to cover, but it's Monday. None of that's really happening around here. Anyways, I sat down in the studio that we're kind of trying to build and develop. And I had my buddy Lucas Fanning came over today, and we've been really trying to figure out how to make all of these parts work. We've got a lot of cables in a lot of weird places. We have microphones in weird places. If we had it figured out, you would see video right now, but we don't. So we're going to just hide everything and save that surprise for later. That gives me something to look forward to. Instead of just revealing everything all at once, I think we're gonna give it a slow roll. Anyways, like I said, Lucas is still here. We were kind of bantering back. You still here?
I'm still here.
We were kind of bantering back and forth, and I said, let's just try this thing live and see if either one of us have the chops to pull this thing off. Whether we have a script, we don't have a script today. It would be nice to have kind of a general outline. I mean,
whiteboard.
The whiteboard. What does the whiteboard say right now?
Keep podcasting. No, number 1, start/restart podcast. Number 2, keep podcasting. And number 3, sports.
Have we done most of what the whiteboard says?
We have accomplished number 1. We have yet to accomplish number 2 and number 3.
Technically, we're still doing it. So does number 2 count?
Number 2 will be an ongoing task for the rest of time.
So we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
Okay. Sports. Hockey, baseball, hockey. Look, there's a guy on the wall that played some hockey. Sports,
that counts.
If we look, I decorated this door a little bit within this room simply because I thought having some of the again, I work in newspaper, so having elements of that newspaper thing, it's always inspirational for me to have some of my work posted in places, especially when it's the best work. And if we do some of the video things I want to do, that means we need to have some sort of visual interest behind us. Anyways, Lucas, tell me, I don't want to spend too much time as we try to figure ourselves out. Biggest struggle tonight was figuring out just how to get the audio out of the mixer into the thing, out into the world.
That's probably it. The trackpad is definitely a big beast to tackle. I'm not going to lie about that, but with the help of good old YouTube and the internet in general, we figured out a couple things.
I know that you had a kind of a rare night where you were not really doing much at home and you were looking for something kind of to do. I'm glad I had you come up. You gave me some motivation to kind of keep plugging. I almost fell asleep at one point in time. I was pretty low, but
yeah, you had a little bit of a crash out, just a small crash, like a little fender bender crash out.
But then I started reorganizing how all the parts went into things. I'm pretty good at technology, I think. But when you start mixing multiple cables and wires, multiple
inputs, outputs, all the puts, shot puts,
we don't know where to put the puts. And we've got USB cables of different sizes. We've got XLR cables going into mics and out of mics. We've got power cables. There's a lot of stuff to kind of figure out.
We have like 17 external hard drives.
So again, when you walked into this space here and you're seeing stuff, I don't know kind of how you felt about the idea of podcasting, but as you've kind of monkeyed around with some of this, I think all of a sudden you lit up and you've had a lot of fun with this.
This has been a blast. Yeah. You've motivated me to want to start my own podcast. I don't know what I'd talk about, but we have options.
Well, let's stay on topic. Again, we're trying to figure out some formats for what we want to do, what I want to do with this. I think what I found success in the most first time around were discussions with some of our, let's say, successful, long tenured coaches, knowing and hearing advice, hearing how they played the game, coached the game, dealt with kids. That was something that, again, there's certain coaches, they're like Jenga blocks. You pull the right one, everybody falls in line and they want to listen. They want to hear about the coach that was there for 25 years and that went to state, 7 or 8 times. They want to know about the guy who, maybe they were only there for 10 years, but they had a lot of success.
Right.
Somebody who was really invested in a community. I think you brought up a good example as we were talking. You were talking about some Cashton legends, let's say. Who did you think would be a good one from the Cashton area?
I think Kevin Alderson can talk all day and night about sports, especially in our area. He's got a lot of memories, experiences, successes, failures. He'd be a wealth of knowledge, in my opinion.
Well, and he spent time in Cash, and that's what everybody's going to remember him for.
Yep.
But he did, if you forgot, he did come out of retirement per se and he spent a couple of years at Lafarge.
Yep.
Found some success with them there. And I had a few interactions with him, and he always seemed very gracious with his time, happy to be coaching.
Happy to be present.
Sure.
I mean, honestly, he's one of those people that just, he elevates the people around him. And that's the proof's in the pudding with Cashton, back in the day. And then with Lafarge, they have, I don't know what their current enrollment is, but to find success like that in such a tiny, tiny school, that's really, really impressive.
Well, like I said, I think talking to coaches like that, I've got a couple in mind that, I mean, we only have so many guys who have been around for 50 plus years.
Right.
But getting guys like that to talk and to share, I think that those are stories that I like the idea of sharing. This is a whole new medium.
Right.
I have dealt with newspaper for the past 5 years. I've enjoyed my time working for the Monroe County Herald, the Hillsborough Center Enterprise, and then most recently, like the Cashton Record, as those all kind of were acquired or had been acquired by Evans Media and Sparta. Telling stories in print, however,
it provides some limitations for sure.
It does. Again, so your family used to own the Cashton Record. You grew up with it. You've been around newspapers for one reason or another. Now, you didn't end up in that field. That's fine. But I think you could attest to what I'm talking about. You don't necessarily read newspapers, but there are other forms of media that you are more invested in simply because it meets you at your needs and wants.
And something that I mentioned to you maybe an hour ago is that there's a certain level of depth that you can achieve with print on paper. And there's a different level of depth that you can achieve with having a conversation with somebody that other people can be a part of without being there, and letting people get deeper into their story and into their history in this form. And there's a lot more opportunity there.
And I think there's a certain human element that comes along when you're able to
hear somebody's voice.
Yep. Now, like I said, as we extrapolate this down the road, what do I want to do? Now, I want to do it tomorrow. I'm not smart enough to figure it all out in one fell swoop, Amazon's pretty fast, but let's face it, they're not just going to drop off stuff in 24 hours, probably.
Hopefully you have Prime.
I've got a lot of...
Was that a plug? Is that a plug for Amazon Prime?
No, I would much rather deal with Optimus Prime. That's just me. The thing is, like, as we look and add video, the visual element to what we're going to do here, it's hearing the voice and hearing the change, the inflection, the tonalities, how all that changes as we share with each other. But now, if and when we add video, seeing those body movements, seeing that teacher coach light up about their team, watching maybe a player talk really excitedly about going to state or some such accomplishment. And maybe let's take it into some weird places. There are some other ancillary people, the bus driver, the cheerleading coach, stats keeper who'd been around forever and ever and ever. Maybe some of those stories are some faces that we can kind of pull out of the shadows and give them a platform and a space. And they also could have a very, very interesting story to tell.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of it is you see what you see in the local area, in your town, in your community, but you don't always know enough about somebody to truly understand where they come from, what they do, and why they do it the way they do it. And I think that this is a really good opportunity for them to show people and tell people why they are who they are, you know?
Yes. And I know that there are a few shows locally that exist that are similar, maybe in what we want to do. I would like to believe that we can do something different, that we can, there's a place for, there's a place for us in what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I felt that with the work that I do, I've heard it time and time again. Why don't you cover school this, or why don't you cover school that? Usually it's, why don't you, aren't you more interested in the bigger schools? Honestly, the bigger schools are fine, but we find, and Logan Everson, who helps us with newspaper, who helps me with newspaper stuff, but also just she helps with the GX3 media stuff. She would probably tell you the same thing because she's seen the numbers, she's seen the metrics. We can go to a big school, Eau Claire, La Crosse, whatever, shoot their game, share some really awesome photos. We just don't get very much traction out of that.
Right.
I don't want to say that people don't care, but there's a different community involvement when your school is a smaller cog in a bigger place,
Right.
versus a place. Again, we can use Lafarge as an example, or
Yeah.
Cashin as an example. I love to use either one of those. I'll use a Gilmanton, I'll use a Seneca. Highland's been a really good one for us the past number of years, where the school is actually a big cog in a smaller community. It is a hub for a lot of activity, a hub for a lot of, let's say, there's a lot of community pride that is centered around the school.
And involvement overall.
You're right. Because people,
You have to.
and they're all related to each other.
Right.
You know, in small communities, you only have, 7 to 20 families. Well, 20 is probably pretty high in some cases. But again, your family, you just don't have that many. There isn't that much variety, and so everybody's connected to each other somehow through relation, through knowing each other, through living next to each other. And when you have, again, people just have to step up differently.
Yep.
That's okay. That's what, again. So one of the things I'll talk about before we wrap up here, we've been going for, oh gosh, we went a little bit longer than what I thought we would for this.
I figured we would.
Yeah. Anyways, like I said, I think it's good for us to try this. This is just a test. I think we did a really good job of managing some of our content even here. If this is our starting point, I am pretty excited about where we can go with it.
I'm excited for you. I really am.
And you've listened to me. You're one of those that's listened to me kind of, I don't want to say whine or cry about it, but I've talked about it enough here and there where you're kind of like, you know what, just, we're sick of hearing you cry about it. Just go do it so we can move on.
I remember it was several years ago. I told you you would be a great podcaster. And then I told a friend of mine that, and she said, I don't think so. He talks too much. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what a podcast is. What is a podcast but talking? So I don't know. I've always thought you would excel at it.
I think the ones, I say this, we don't all have the ability to have great conversations, especially in this day and age. We are very disconnected in that regard. However, I think what gets me through in a lot of cases, why I'm curious to do this, is exactly that. I am curious to do this. Number one, can I do this? Number two, let's get certain people on here and ask questions. Right. I know that I have opinions about how we should be doing sport or not. It's not all, I mean, it's fair for me to share those opinions, but I also think it's important to hear the other side. There's always going to be a counterweight to whatever argument I have. And I think it's important for me to listen to those, but it's important for us as communities to listen to pro this, pro that. I mean, hot button topic in Wisconsin high school sports for the last few years has been the shot clock of the high school basketball, for high school basketball.
Right.
And it's one of those things, we're not going to get into it here, but I know that I feel a certain way about it. Other people feel other ways. I actually feel both ways about it, but regardless, listening to people talk about it, does that spark controversy? No matter what, it does. However, can we listen to each other and understand everybody else's viewpoint? I think that's the important part.
And that's something that's so rare.
It is. It gets to be rare, but that's what this medium, I think, allows for. As much as I love the newspaper, like you said, there are limitations. Number one, space. Number two, well, that's a positive limitation in a way. Design, like the way that, especially the way that Logan and I design pages, we put a premium on the look and the feel, the artwork. We want it to look a certain way. Sometimes that means that the stories get stretched out a little longer simply because we're trying to work a lot of artwork in. We're trying to set up the page a certain way. With this, it's talking, it's audio. If it's visual, eventually that changes kind of how we do things. Again, the different mediums just they hit different audiences. Yes.
Yep. Yep. And I think for me, it's all about that depth piece, because it's the same conversation. You get a text from somebody, you read it in an entirely different way than they said it, and understanding more of what's going on in that person's head as they're talking to you, not necessarily to you, but you're listening to them talk. You understand it at a different level than if you were to read it.
You would have asked 10, 20 years ago, would I be doing this or what would I be doing? I probably would have laughed at you.
Yeah. I think that was pretty common. I don't think anybody 20 years ago was thinking about podcasting.
We've had a few that have, I think, tried it here and there. Like I said, locally, I just don't think we have. I don't think we have a lot of it, which is why I do think that we can be successful. And I think that the topics and the people we get to talk to, I mean, really, your show, no matter what you do, just like our photographs, as technically sound as they might be in about every case, it always depends on what story you're telling.
Yep.
And if it's a boring story of just a kid dribbling a ball, we're going to forget about it. We're not going to last, or we're not going to linger with that image. But now if it's, I hate to say it, this, the unfortunate kid slumped over after losing, in a game to go to state, that hits you a certain way.
Every story matters.
Every story matters. There's a perspective for every story. I'm looking at a couple of these pieces of artwork in this building right now, and there are some different perspectives. Things that, that's the role of the photographer, is to present relatively mundane things in a new light. Again, if we're going to make high art out of photography, we need to present mundane things in a new light. And there are always times that Logan and I have been able to do that with some of our images. And when we do that, that's when the images stick,
right?
And they hit you emotionally. Yes, we can give you all the feels from losing, but we can also do that with winning. No matter what, if we make you feel, that means that we're doing our job.
Absolutely.
Can we do that through this medium and make you feel a certain way about, and quite honestly, it's the same thing. Some guests going to be a little dry. Some guests' stories, the way that we need to angle those stories, they're just not going to be the most compelling. If everything was compelling, nothing would be compelling.
Correct.
But I love the variety that I think we have in front of us. This is why I'm very excited about this. And if I've got one thing to wrap this thing up with, this has been fun tonight, getting to this point where we're recording something.
Right.
And it is terrifying. I mean, for you, you don't care. This is not your thing. You're just here because you're like, let's go have a good time. But for me, like, I'm terrified to record stuff because it's permanent.
Right.
And granted, right now we have the privacy settings set so nobody can see this, but that's just because we still might fail and screw this up. And that's okay.
You're just breaking the ice here.
We're breaking the ice. And honestly, it's no different than I used to hate public speaking.
Yep.
I don't know if you felt the same way.
I was never super fond of it. I'll say that. I'm better at it now than I have ever been, but that's okay.
And I would say I'm pretty much the same. Like, I hated it at one point in time. I absolutely love public speaking at this point in time, because you have command of the room.
Yeah. You can share your passion, your energy with others. And there's no feeling like it. I'm telling you.
We're at like 19 minutes. You know that?
I figured it would go long.
You know what? I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna keep it sport related. Okay.
Deal.
When you talk about that, I think this is, again, for everybody out there. If you've still dialed into this, I'm impressed, because we don't have like I said, no script. We're just kind of flowing.
Do a little bit of improv here.
A little bit, but let's keep this sports topic. Okay. Because we got to try some of these things out. You recently had, again, just talking about public speaking, you kind of had that recently with kind of a new adventure for you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So I will be coaching Elevate Volleyball Club this upcoming fall, winter, spring, summer. So basically forever. have had several people trying to convince me to do it for 3 or 4 years, and I always thought I didn't have time. I wanted to play volleyball for as long as I could, until my body started to give out on me, and then maybe I'll get back into coaching. You never know. And I was offered an opportunity to come with the Elevate tryouts, whatever weekend it was, the 20th, 21st, 19th, 20th, whatever it was. And I was excited, but I didn't expect for it to have the impact on me that it did. I have not been this excited about volleyball in a long time. And it's not even in a playing capacity, it's in a coaching capacity. And I am just so excited to be able to share my love for the game and my love for the sport with people that are so impressionable. I mean, you're talking about 12, 13, all the way up to 18-year-old kids, and some of them are like, it's just volleyball, it's just a chore, it's just a sport, whatever. My parents make me do this. I love it. I love volleyball. And to be able to share that with other people, and maybe I'll be the reason that somebody sticks with volleyball. Maybe I'll be the reason that someone goes from I'm not going to play in college to all I want to do is play in college. And just to be able to share that love for the game and the passion, I'm so excited. Just the opportunity to lift people up and get on their case a little bit. Sometimes they need that, obviously, but yeah, just bring people up and have fun doing it.
And right now for myself, I'm in the middle of my second round of swimming lessons. It's a lot of the same things you're talking about. As a teacher, you never know what lands and sticks with a kid.
Yeah. Something you said it and you said nothing's going to come of this. That one moment will stick with that kid for their whole life. And you just never know what kind of impression you can make.
No, and that's probably one of the greatest rewards for any teacher.
Yeah.
You've got a sister that teaches, and she'd probably tell you the same thing about certain circumstances where she said, these are, I really thought this would stick with the kid. But then this, kid X comes back with comment G, and probably
I didn't remember saying that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess what it is, it's a lesson. It's a lesson, right? Be mindful,
right,
of your attitude and what you say, probably almost at all times, because you don't know, even negatively, how that affects somebody.
You have the power to change someone's life every day, good or bad. It just depends on the way you act and the way you wake up.
And if you don't wake up, you're probably dead.
Yeah, that's true. Or you're just really tired.
Oh gosh. Yes. Well, all right. We've rambled on for 22 minutes. Did it feel relatively effortless to get to this point?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't believe I spent 22 minutes.
Do you think that if we actually had a, topic A, B, C, D, 4 or 5 general topics, we could muddle through this at least this long, if not longer?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And if you've listened to this long, you can probably listen for another 15 minutes if we go to about 35, 40.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm just going to spitball this out loud because it's a treat for those who are still with us. Here's what I'm thinking of. And maybe you've got some different ideas. Somebody's asked me, like, what kind of segments do I want to do? What kind of topics are we going to talk about? I'm willing to talk about any topic.
Right.
If I can tie it into sports somehow, I will. However, I do have interests and love that lie outside of sports or tangential to sports. And I think those things are kind of fun.
Is tangential a word? Nick?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
It's not a fruit. That's a tangerine. That's a tangerine-ental.
That's right.
Okay. But I figure when I did this the first time around, we were, like I said, stuck at home.
Yeah.
We didn't have live sports to mull over.
Right.
This is a different opportunity. We're just coming into another sports season. I think for me, it's my, I don't know, what would it be? 15th, 16th, 17th, like season doing this full time. I've been doing, something photo related for almost 25 years or about 25 years at this point in time. But to go into this with that much like full-time backstory is interesting. I think going into a podcast, going into something different than just photography evolves the rest of the work that I've done that we're trying to do.
Yeah. It all ties together.
It keeps me interested in stuff. But again, I think it's okay to talk about games that happen. Maybe not all the games. Maybe we can read through some scores and that kind of thing. But I really think it's hitting on a couple of maybe big games. If we have the right guests to talk about those games, I'll be quite honest. I'm not a I'm not an X's and O's guy. I can't break down football footage and plays the way that some of these super strategic coaches can do. I've never been taught how to do that. So finding a way to talk around those points, we can talk about wins, losses, what it means. I think those are things that maybe reach people better, anyways.
Yeah.
What else did I like? Again, like I said, talking to some of our historic coaches, some of our, you know,
influential community members.
Yes, but like I said, I think we can go beyond that if we need to.
Right.
There are always people that maybe are retired. Let's pull them out. Let's get them to share their stories. There are people that have probably been lost in the shuffle somewhere.
Yeah.
That this can be a platform. This could be a place for them to share part of their story.
And people love sharing their stories.
They do. And what I really like is sharing those stories with them, but it's also preserving those stories. And I think that's the thing that I'll hit on often. And I'd have to I'll give both of my parents credit. My mom will take more credit than my dad would have, but it's this idea that we're going to take our history, because this is our community history, and we are going to package it up and we're going to put it on the shelf someplace.
Never lose it.
And hopefully never lose it. Hopefully leave it there so that the next person can come. Again, we used to do it in the library. We'd go get the old library book, flip it open, and be, oh, this is our old history.
Right.
What we have to do with, I think, video is having a central hub where we can put video here. You have to label it correctly. That's the big thing.
Right.
As long as we label things correctly, so it's very, very searchable, we can go in and say, let's go talk about this person or that person. I think I came up with a couple anniversaries. Sport anniversaries. Everybody, there's always a sport anniversary. Somebody had a 10-year state championship here. Somebody had a 20-year here. Talking to some of those people, whether your team is good or bad, to me, it doesn't matter. Let's face it. When you were in high school, 10 years ago or so yet, your football team really wasn't very good, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that they don't have a good story to tell? No. There are some interesting stories. It's not winning state championships or even making the playoffs.
Anytime you can put a bunch of random kids together and do something as a team, as a cooperative unit, that's a story. That's something you got to hear about.
I think so. And I think there's a good angle someplace.
Right.
But the interviewer has to ask the right questions.
That's your job, not mine.
All right, fair enough. All right, well, we monkeyed around enough here tonight. I think we've got a good place to start. I mean, I'm sure people have ideas and suggestions. By the way, this is my plug. If you have ideas or suggestions of either topics or segments that we maybe could or should consider, I've got a bunch of ideas in the hopper. That doesn't mean we can't change and come up with something new and different. Again, I like sports adjacent topics because I think they appeal to a wider audience. Somebody asked me, like, what's your audience? Well, I think I have an idea of what it is, but also the scope of what I cover. It's a big territory. So if I go all in on Black River Falls girls hockey, that's probably going to alienate folks, let's say down Potosi way, because hockey they can't relate to. However, I think the common threads are, what are some of our human stories we can share, and can we get on board with, a coach, whether it be hockey, wrestling, tennis, cross country? They're all trying to do the same thing. Coaches are trying to make their kids better. Kids are trying to be the best they can be, and fans want their team to win.
Right.
All right. Well, I think with that, we'll wrap it up. We're just under 30 minutes. Give yourself a pat on the back if you made it this far.
I couldn't listen to myself talk this long. There's no way.
We're going to sign off. Hopefully we didn't screw this up. And please come back for more and different content as we get closer to our 2025-2026 school year. We've been in this century a while.
That's
now.
A wild concept, isn't it?
Very much so. All right. So
send those ideas in, folks.
Send those ideas in. GX3media@hotmail.com. Yes, I am still a hotmail.com for the time being.
Because it's not Ymail.
That's true. Thanks for listening to our cast tonight. We'll try to come back, and hopefully we can do this on a regular basis. Whether Lucas is stupid enough to show up again, or I'm willing to give up late nights while I'm supposed to be doing other work, we'll find a way to keep this going, especially if people are watching. So make sure. Again, how do we know that that you're watching? I can see the numbers, but also like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff.
Drop a like, you bet.
All right. Thanks again. Have a good night, kids.
Thanks, everybody.